If you're like me, and you got no life and there's nowhere to go, then tune in to the Animation Truman Show. You'll be glad you did.
And of course, you will be absolutely ecstatic and thrilled and happy with yourself for tuning in to the Animation Truman Show. I am David Matthew Weese, aka BlendedPlanet, and what are we doing this morning? Well, it's basically fixes. Tell you what I'm going to do is I'm going to, I think I'm going to loop a little piece of episode 1 for about just a few seconds while I go get my tasty beverage, which actually happens to be nothing more than hot water at this point. Had my coffee, and rather than bore you guys to tears, I will just play some video, and then we'll come back and have some fun. So I'll be back in less than 1 minute. Blah 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 blah. Okay, I'm back. All right, so we can go ahead and stop this and switch back to our other screen. And actually, I'm not really going to switch back to the other screen. It's all on one screen, but the show is on in full screen mode on the other screen. So this is what's on my other screen. It's my video edit. And so what we're going to do today is a couple things. Is we're going to, what we have is episode, or I should say probably webisode 2 of Salt and Light is basically ready to go. That's this. And we're going to go through and there's some very minor fixes required. The first one is going to be this, for example. Let me switch back to the other screen so you can see it full screen. So right here, if you look really close, when you're looking at the preview in a 4-inch window or on a phone or this sort of thing, you can't see all the things that have gone wrong necessarily. So here's an example right here.
Everyone be patient. There's plenty for all.
Okay, did you see the problem? If you look really close right here.
Everyone be patient. There's plenty for all.
See that? Asher's mouth quit moving. So you've got lip sync going on. And again, at this scale, if you look at this, well, the vast majority of the time when I'm working on the show, this is what I'm looking at, is this. Okay, so if you either have everything kind of relatively small on the screen, or you happen to have any kind of lag between, because there's a lot of things playing together at once. And if you had any kind of lag between your audio and your video, for example, you might not catch that problem. So what I'm doing this morning is putting it in full screen mode, as you can see back here. And also, if necessary, taking each section of the show and caching it into memory, which with Vegas you can do that with Shift B. It'll take a section of the show that you select and actually put it into memory so that it's going to definitely play back in real time, perfectly. So there are a couple things to note though about the readiness, let's say, of webisode 2. One is, for those of you who were kind of in on the conversation about the this, okay, so this is, we had talked a little bit, I can't remember if it was on Discord or if it was during the chat on a live stream, but the basic question was this going to be done verbally? And I think Darren was kind of messing around with the idea of doing a voice for it. Well, I got to tell you, I actually wound up channeling Roku, and I did it myself as a voice. Okay, I just to me it sounded cool. So this is what you have.
Previously on Salt and Light.
Melchizedek, it's time you learn the truth. Our beautiful land of...
Did you catch that? So that's me doing the voice first thing in the morning. Previously on Salt and Light. I didn't actually go back and listen to the voice of Roku from Avatar: The Last Airbender, but I kind of think I did the best job I could at the, of kind of paralleling that sound. So Webisode 2, to make it different from Webisode 1, number one, it has a more abbreviated intro. The intro is only 30 seconds instead of a minute. And then the next thing I added was this, as I say this.
Previously on Salt and Light.
Melchizedek, it's time you learn the truth. Our beautiful land of Nuzi enjoyed peace and prosperity, but Golek had plans of his own. Treachery is paid in full.
This is Asher's doing. That's terrible.
Indeed, it was a mess.
Okay, so now we're getting into Webisode 2, and what I've been doing the last couple days is working on the score. So
Everyone be patient. There's
you can hear the music sort of kicking in right at the beginning. And I would say on balance that went pretty well. There's a couple things that are probably going to have to be tweaked in there. You'll notice here in the recap, right here, a little while ago, Golek's mouth was...
This is Asher's doing. That's terrible.
Lip sync was actually out of sync and had to be fixed. So that's another example of something that was tweaked. And then what I did yesterday, I probably should switch to this screen so you can guys kind of see what I'm doing here. So you have the intro and you've got the recap that are both nested veg files, which means they're a complete edit in and of themselves that you can open up at any time in Vegas. It's quite useful. It's like nested subscenes into Homa 2D. It's the same idea. So I can make changes, which I did. I changed the positioning of this particular shot so that his voice lined it up. Did I just say lined it? So his voice lined up better. And then you could save that and it just automatically updates, right? And so when I've done feature films, this is typically how I do it, where each scene in the movie is a complete standalone edit. And I talked last week a little bit about how it can become a bit of a hairy mess because you're having to... In fact, it actually just happened yesterday where... well, let me jump over to here and show you. Okay, so I wanted to do a next time on. So I'll go ahead and play this. This is kind of a teaser for next time, which I think it's kind of me doing my due diligence as far as how I relate to my audience, right? So let me put this to full screen and you'll see what I'm talking about.
the king a little visit.
Hey, this is Dave, aka Blended Planet, creator of Salt and Light. In the next episode, things start to heat up as we learn of Golek's nefarious plan, which doesn't bode well for anybody but Golek. If you missed episode 1, it's right here on YouTube channel Blended Planet. Be sure to subscribe to be alerted about new episodes. Now, it takes a lot to create a show all by myself, so if you'd like to see episodes more frequently, consider supporting me through GoFundMe, Patreon, or just a friendly PayPal tip. The links are below in the description, and above all, stay tuned for more Salt and Light.
Okay, so I thought that was just good business to go ahead and put something like that at the end of the episode that would, basically maybe engender a better experience for people because, for one thing, it's possible somebody could see episode 2 and never have seen episode 1, and you kind of would want to probably go back and watch it, right? That sort of thing. So, and then plugging the funding related stuff is, obviously just good business. So we'll see how that goes. But anyway, so now we are at fixes. So let's get to it. I'm going to, again, look at this full screen.
Everyone be patient. There's plenty for all.
Okay. Now, there is a spot later in the show where the same shot gets used again. And so I want to look at that. Yep, it's right here. And see if it is also problematic here. I suspect that it is, but I don't know.
Get up, kid.
Melchizedek.
Yeah.
Get up, kid. Melchizedek.
What I really should do is just change. I mean, I kind of cheated by using this shot again, and it really doesn't make any sense. So what I should do is take this shot and redraw Asher and put Melchizedek in the shot. So this is one of those things that you sort of do sometimes as an editor or a creator. Hey, good morning, Maria. Is that you're always thinking in terms of the fact that people can't quite put the pieces together about what they've seen until after they've seen it. So what that means is that it's actually not that big of a crime to have this shot where Mel isn't even in the drawing. As you can see, he's not here. But you at the time that you're seeing this shot, you don't know that Mel is supposed to be in the drawing. Now, that's not completely true in this case because he is talking to Melchizedek, right? So the audio gives it away, of course. But the point is, at least in the visual sense, you would really not even really know there's a problem until you get to this shot, and then you're not going to remember to think back to the other shot whether Mel was in the picture or not. You just won't, you know. And so there's actually these kinds of errors that happen all the time in movies and stuff. And so anyway, I would say this shot.
Get up, kid. Melchizedek.
My sense is that let me actually see if we can roll this back. And there, by the way, as you guys can see, is the cabbage guy from this is the cabbage guy from Avatar: The Last Airbender. I snuck him into my show just for fun.
Now get up, kid. Melchizedek.
Okay, that's almost right. Now, being dyslexic, I have a hard time sometimes with which came first, the mouth movement or the audio. Maybe other people struggle with that too, but I don't know. I know I do. Okay, so the voice started later. Did I just get that right?
Kid.
Yeah.
Melchizedek.
Yeah, so his lips started moving too soon. So what I'm going to do is actually keep going back.
Melchizedek. Kid.
Okay, and then ideally we would want...
Get up, kid.
See, one thing to keep in mind here too, by the way, is it would be possible to use because this is an image sequence, and it would not be that hard to cut the shot into pieces and assemble an edit for this particular shot that actually made more sense directly in Vegas. Just bring in the still images and recobble the shot. Now it becomes more difficult when you have things like the cabbage guy who is he's moving throughout the whole shot. So if you did what I just described, of course there might be a moment where he stands still or something. But again, it's one of those things that I don't think, your brain would never put that together that that's actually a problem, because you wouldn't realize that it's a problem at the time that you saw it. You could only realize that later when you watch the show again, right? And by the way, that's kind of the part of the fun too. For some directors, kind of harbor the conceit that why not leave mistakes in the show anyway, just so people have the fun of discovering them later, right? So that's legit. Okay, so I want to be here.
Melchizedek.
Okay, so now the voice started slightly late, so I have to think about this in reverse. So if the voice started late, then I need to roll the video to the left. So visuals happen earlier.
Melchizedek.
No, I got it wrong. So like I said,
Kid.
it's a dyslexia thing.
Melchizedek.
Okay, now...
Kid. Melchizedek.
As you can see, that's still not right.
Kid. Melchizedek.
Can we... make a slight change in the edit timing to make it work?
Melchizedek. You have to pay. Melchizedek. You have to pay.
Okay, it appears not. So I'm double checking to make sure I don't have automatic ripple editing turned on, because that would be problematic. And now let me look at the timing on this. Okay, that doesn't work either. Okay, so this is actually exactly what I was talking about. It's not that big of a fix. It probably looks like a more tragic situation than it really is. But let's go to auto size here. In other words, now that his
Melchizedek, you have...
what I could do here is take this, well, theoretically, take this image from the image sequence and just stick it in right here to just by myself. What is that, half a second? Yeah, it's about 2/3 of a second. So we'll try that. What the heck? So I need my image browser. Coffee and bagel, huh? Nice. Okay, so this is shot number 148. And so, well, this is probably as dull as watching paint dry for people, but it's pretty important work, actually. So shot number 148. And if it doesn't work and I need to go in and reanimate a little bit, so be it. Let me double check this. I don't think this is shot number 148. I got my number wrong. What is this? This is 135. Okie dokies. Sorry. So 135. There it is. And no, it's not. I'm sorry. Oh, I did it wrong again. I was looking at the wrong one. I'm such a silly goose. 076. Okay. Hey, Inio-san. So 076. Inio-san and I had a fun little adventure the other day. I went and lurked on AMB Animation's live stream because I like AMB. I mean, you know, I think he really does help a lot of people, I think. And so I go on there, but I had to go on. If I wanted to join in the chat, I had to go on as Dave Weese, not BlendedPlanet, since obviously I'm banned from AMB's channel as BlendedPlanet. And so I went on there as Dave Weese, and it was interesting actually because he was talking about you know, how you sort of ingratiate yourself into the industry and find opportunities, you know, to either create or animate or whatever. And so people were asking questions about that, and so I chimed in with, well, what about creating your own show and releasing webisodes on YouTube? And to his credit, I don't know the guy's actual name, but his AMB's answer was, you know what, I have no idea. I can't speak to that because that's not what I'm doing. So I thought that's actually a really good answer. You know, and a humble answer. It's kind of like what I've said before when I've alluded to AMB. You know, he's just kind of doing what he does, and you got to respect that. Okay, so I need the picture. I don't have a good way to know exactly which picture this is, unfortunately. I have to do it. Hey, there's a bot. So I have to do it visually. So I think at this point, I'm going to turn the Magic Preview off so I can jump to here on the other screen, and what I'm going to have to do is try to find the actual frame. It's probably, well, it can't be that one because Asher's mouth is open. So if we go through these one by one, we could basically, we want Asher's mouth to be closed, so that's probably the frame. And then I'm going to go ahead one, because why not add one more frame of animation into it? So now if I go back to the video edit, I'm going to take this. Now the danger here is that it might actually turn out to be framed wrong. So we'll see. We will see. Okay. So let's see what
Melchizedek.
Okay, so it is framed a little wrong. But that's because this shot looks like it was cropped. Okay, and golly, I do not have a good way to copy. Well, I mean, I guess I can. What I have to do here is copy the exact dimensions. Okay, so this is tricky. I mean, this is a little, for sure, boring and tricky, friends. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the width and then go to this one and paste that in. Okay, and this will actually help to it'll actually help to make this still image work, because if I want to, I can continue the zoom in. Okay, meaning that from here to here, I'm going to go ahead and, oh, why is snapping turned back on? Golly, Vegas, come on. God, I hate that when software, like you change a setting and then it forgets. It's like, really? Enable snapping. I turned that off yesterday. Very, very irritating, my friends. Okay, so what I want to do is sneak that in a little bit.
Melchizedek.
Now that did not work at all. Okay, so he jumped too far. And by the way, for those of you who are screaming at your computer screen saying, God, Dave, this is so stupid. Why don't you just go in and edit the show and, edit the scene and re-render it and, just fix it. And you're correct. There's many, many situations where this is the dance. It's this tug of war between a fix that you know is going to take a certain amount of time versus a different way of doing it that might take a lot less time. And in this case, probably the long way is the right way. But I think this is just, this is just reality. Once you get invested into trying to solve a problem in one way, well, now you get a bunch of time.
Zedek.
You don't necessarily want to just toss it out. So this is kind of interesting because that's the wrong frame. So it is, actually the most interesting thing about this situation right here is the aspect of it that really is, from kind of a dealing with software standpoint, kind of stupid. And what is that? It's the fact that here we have an image sequence in the software, and we don't actually have any way of determining which image the last one in the sequence is, right? Well, that's kind of understandable. It's like, that's a fairly obscure thing to have to find out, Now, interestingly, I'm on the other screen. I'm going to go... I'm actually thinking this is where I ended up. So it has to be this drawing, I'm pretty sure. So again, the basic problem with this type of work is I can't believe anyone would stick around and watch it, because it's got to be just as boring as... Okay, so that is the correct drawing. But, if you're creating a show, you're going to wind up doing this kind of stuff. Guarantee you. Okay, so what is... Okay, so it actually dealt with the...
Deck.
It dealt with the... It dealt with the aspect ratio automatically for me. So when I changed one dimension, it fixed the other. So now if we take this and squish it in just a little bit, let's just see what happens.
Deck.
Yuck it up, kid.
Melchizedek. You have to pay attention.
Yuck it up,
That's
kid.
probably an example of where...
Melchizedek. You have to pay attention.
Where actually it's correct. You could get away with that. You've got just a moment there where it's a freeze frame, but it's still moving. The camera's still pushing in, you might say. And would you really think about that?
Melchizedek. You have to pay attention.
Now, another thing I'm not necessarily loving. Let me look at that.
You have
I
to
like the
pay
way
attention.
his hand comes down. What's bugging me a little bit there is the way the oh, I see. That explains it. It's looping. We've got an erroneous frame right there. Okay, so what we have to do, friends. Yes, okay, I knew something was jolting me. Okay, and now this needs to push to there.
You have to pay attention.
Yeah, so there you go. That's
Melchizedek. You have to pay attention.
Now, was I seeing a black frame there? Nope, it's just the contrast, dark to light. So, okay, cool, that's fine. We'll go with that for the moment. And then I wanted to look at this one.
Everyone be patient. There's plenty for all.
Okay, so after he said theirs, he stops, his lips quit moving. So we've got to address that. So that's 076. And since we put the still frame in the other shot, then no matter what, his lips stop on the other shot. So that's fine. So with that, we need to open up 076. Well, what is 076? 076 is probably a Krita, I'm pretty sure. So minus 076, there it is. At least I expect so. Could be that this made its way into Tahoma or OpenTunes at some point. Okay, so okay, this is easy. All we really need to do is grab these keys right here, probably, and just move them over here. There's plenty of room for all. Okay. I would say this needs to start sooner, and I'm going to just overlap that like that, just so he keeps talking. Okay, that's probably going to work. I mean, it's a little risky, but we'll give it a try. Okay, so now this was done quite a long time ago, so it probably isn't set up for rendering. So let me look on the show. On the other screen, I'm looking at the properties. Is it JPEGs or PNGs? Okay, so it's a PNG sequence. And interestingly, this shot was one of the early ones that was actually done at 24 frames per second. So 076, we're going to go Control R, and I'm sure, oh, it is set up to render correctly. There you go. All right, we'll just re-render it then. Well, I probably had some late fixes to it. So who's here? We got, oh, so the funny thing about this story about Inio-san was that I figured I'd plug my channel, right? So I'm like, so, you know, what about releasing a, you know, doing a show and releasing webisodes on YouTube, you know? And so I posted that, and I said, that's what BlendedPlanet's doing. And Inio-san, I don't remember what your comment was, Inio-san, but it was something that was, you know, complimentary, like he's the first to do it or something. I can't remember what it was, but, and then it turned out, and I kind of thought Inio-san was playing along. I didn't realize that he didn't realize that Dave Weese and BlendedPlanet were the same guy. And so on Discord, I'm like, hey, well played, man. You know, thanks for chiming in or whatever. And he's like, oh, he's like confused because he didn't realize what was going on. So pretty funny. But anyway, if you want to learn animation, I do recommend AMB's channel. If you really want to learn the purest, old school Disney style, if you want to call it that, animation. Okay, so this should look better now. Let me see what we've got.
Everyone be patient. There's plenty for all.
Okay, now it went too long. So this is a part that's tricky. Obviously, what I could do here is I could render out this piece of audio and stick it in the Krita file. I'm not going to do that. It's not worth the hassle.
Everyone be patient. There's plenty for all.
Okay, so basically his mouth went too long but didn't start quite soon enough, okay? So I'm going to, usually on guessing these type of things, I'm usually pretty good. So I'm going to just go ahead and go Alt or Shift Alt. Okay, sorry, I hit the wrong key. Alright, Shift Alt allows me to ripple edit. So this needed to start sooner. Okay, and this bit right here. So basically he says, plenty for all. I'm going to guess that and render it. I'm just guessing, folks. So this is the type of thing that there's not really an elegant way to really dial in real time what you're doing. So if that's the situation, what you do is you just kind of figure, all right, I'm going to try it like maybe 2 or 3 times because each time takes about 1 minute, and hopefully
Everyone be patient. There's plenty for all.
Okay, not bad. The only problem, okay, so I'll get it on the third one. Usually that's the way it goes, plenty for all, right? Is this Shift Alt needs to be starting earlier. And Krita didn't catch it. Okay. Everyone be patient. There's plenty for all. Okay. I guess I do need to render this, don't I? Control R. And you guys can't see that, but let's give it half a second for Krita to re-render. One of the problems that makes this trickier is that if you notice this zigzag here, what's going on is that this video, this image sequence, is not playing back at the same speed it was put together in Krita. So this is kind of an enormously tricky thing to get right.
Everyone be patient. There's plenty for all.
And I blew it.
Everyone be patient. There's plenty for all.
There's no break. And there's no break. And I believe it went too long. Let me look at that again.
Everyone be patient. There's plenty for all.
Oh no, it actually ended too soon. So really I just need to stick the break back in there. So we'll give that a try, and hopefully that'll nail it. And then, you know, if you do this, you go back and forth a few times, and if you blow it more than like 3 times, then you're going, okay, is there a better way? And then it would become a matter of probably inserting the audio into Krita. So,
Everyone be patient. There's plenty for all. Everyone be patient.
check one thing. You guys can't see this. I need to switch again.
Everyone be patient. There's plenty for all.
Okay, it's a little off, but actually, in this case, by just shifting it a little bit so that the video part starts a little bit later, might fix it.
Everyone be patient. There's plenty for all.
There we go. Nailed it. Okay, cool. All right. Yeah, and the problem with bringing the audio into Krita in this case is that, remember, the timing in the Krita file is different than what wound up in the show. So this is actually, you know, it's the kind of thing that most people would probably look at what I'm doing here and it would just blow past them. They wouldn't even think about it. And they would, but it's actually a really good example of the kind of thing you can bump into in dealing with kind of the logistics of managing multiple layers of production, you know, where you're animating it, and then you're bringing it into the show as an edit, and then sometimes you're changing the timing of it at the edit. And, you know, if it doesn't occur to you that you might go back and change something in the animation, well, that's going to change what it looks like in the edit, but the problem is the edit's out of time. So how do you go back? And the most perfect solution would be to completely reanimate the episode, like take this whole episode and retime it so that you never needed to change the timing in the edit, right? So, and I think in a perfect world, that is what would happen. So now another thing we probably should look at while it's, you know, opportune is to go back to the second use of that shot and see if we screwed it up somehow by introducing this slight change in the animation.
Get up, kid.
Melchizedek, you have to...
Yeah, I definitely don't like
Get
that
up, kid.
Melchizedek, you have to pay attention.
All right, I'm gonna take this. Let's see. I better save my edit and then give myself an undo here. I really don't like the way that's looking. Now, another thing you can do, by the way, another thing you could do that I didn't think of, and I think I'll do it this way, is you could always just split this and then time stretch a piece of it. But the basic problem here is
Melchizedek.
okay, so that starts too early, so that's good. I can move it to the right.
Up, kid. Melchizedek. You have to pay.
And we still have the problem. So I'm going to come back to that one later.
Melchizedek. You.
My sense is that
Melchizedek.
this could still start later, which means that the image that we have in there is wrong.
Melchizedek. You.
Yeah, I'm going to redo this shot and put Mel in the shot, and then that'll just solve the whole problem. So this is going to be 176B. Let's just do it. Let's just do that right now. Okay, so let's go back here. This is going to be a bit tricky. This is 24 frames per second, so he's going to say Melchizedek. So yeah, this is going to be a bit of a fun job. Let's go File, Save As, and we'll call this 076B. Whoops, all caps. Okay, 076B, and now what we're going to do is immediately I'm going to go ahead and render this so that the render settings are saved in the Krita file. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to change this by typing it in, 076B. Okay, because Krita is pretty smart about that. So by typing that in, it knows that it needs to create these additional folders. And so you can see it didn't complain about the render location like it did before because it's not overwriting previously saved files. So there we go. So now we've got a fresh scene, and now we can go ahead and just fix this, right? So I'm going to, by the way, I hope there's not too much noise there. I'm changing the position of my microphone so I can get a little closer to my tablet screen. Okay, how do we want to do this? Well, this is a complicated shot. Make no mistake about it. Okay, so the cabbage guy. Oh, I know how this changed. Ah, ha, ha, ha. I forgot about this. Okay, let's unlock that. Well, no, let's not unlock. Let's leave that in there. Okay, so the reason that this had its render settings up to date is because about probably 3 weeks ago or something, I opened it up and I redid the cabbage guy as a transform mask. Previously, he was just animated frame by frame. So I redid that as a transform mask, and then I baked it down, and that's what we see animating across the screen. Okay, so this is what we're dealing with. We're dealing with Asher. Now this is kind of interesting. We've got his mouth. We've got his head. Good. That's useful. And then we got his body. Okay, so his body's probably going to be able to be largely changed, and if I'm lucky here, it'll turn out that it's really just one frame, one drawing, right? So we go back here, and we've got, yeah, so this is not really well named. It's in the Asher group, so it should be called body. So there's his body, and it doesn't even have a keyframe. Okay, so now this is, for some purists in the audience, this may horrify you, what I'm about to do. Okay, but I'm going to do it anyway. Which is, I'm going to grab this, and I'm going to hit the A key, and I'm going to flip it. And I'm doing that to give myself a starting point right here. Okay, it's really not bad, but remember, he's pretty tiny on the screen. Actual size would be that. Okay, so now what I want to do is probably give it an anchor point here. We're going to wind up fixing his arm. Okay. But that basically made him fit. Okay, so now we can grab this. This is, you know, definitely not always the correct way to fix these types of things, but in this case, I think it's going to work pretty well. Okay, now I don't want to It's pretty dumb to just go like this, because the fact that the hand and the leg are overlapping each other means that editing it or making a fix is going to be enormously difficult. So I'm going to hit GE and just erase his hand. There's no point having his hand in there. So now what we can do is put his arm down like this, a little more soggy, I would say. Hit the B key, and now let's just do a little painting and get the thing fixed up, and then we'll be in a good position to okay, and by the way, okay, yeah, the background, obviously the background is actually at this point in the, you know, in the structure, the background is actually the foreground, which is kind of a problem, right? You could split it out and move it to the top, but in this case, what I'm gonna do is just take, okay, now, Asher is, let me think about this one. You know what? This, I'm going to go Asher arm, and I'm going to make a, I'm going to add a frame and call this Asher head. I'm not going to worry about his mouth at this point. Although you could bake it together now. But here's what I'm getting at, is I want to take this frame and just duplicate it up to here. So now I can forget about his arm. What we have now is just one single frame. Obviously you can see his mouth animating, but that's on a different layer. So we've got this layer, GE, which means freehand path tool in erase mode, and stop everything. I'm in the wrong layer. That is the cardinal sin, and also Krita missed my hotkey of erase. When I hit the E key, Krita didn't catch it. So there we go. So now we can fix this. All right. Now what we can do is hit Control E and bake the mouth into the head. So he says Melchizedek, and presumably we've got the mouth shapes here. So why keep this around? If we need them, we'll use them, but basically I don't think we're going to need them. So now we just have the problem of his head's in the wrong place, and we can fix that by adding a transform mask. Thank you, Krita, for having that new exciting feature. And so I'm basically tweaking his head to sort of be more or less consistent with what we see in the next shot. And by the way, of course, I need to put his hand back in. Okay, and so now I have created a bit of a problem for myself in that by baking the mouth together, if I hadn't baked the mouth together with the head, I could have just moved them each with a transform mask, and now we've got the all the lip sync baked into the head, which means we would theoretically have to erase this little bit here in every single frame. Well, we can do that. Let's see if this transform mask is about right. I think what we'll do is let's animate the transform mask and then bake it down. This should be kind of interesting. So I'm going to say let's give Asher, let's just go, you know, about a second into it and add an animation keyframe. Okay? And, you know, I suppose leave it to Krita to forget where we were before we put it in there. So we got to move it again. All right, but that's okay. That's okay. We'll live with that. So now all I want to do is put in a little sullen little moon. Okay? So now I'm going to save my work just to be safe here. Save, save, save. And what we're going to do is let that animate. And that is way too gradual. So I'm going to move this one. Ah, stop. Krita. Oh, I hate that. Guys. This is the kind of thing that really gets my gander up. Now, for Krita to guess that my intention was to grab this whole column is like bafflingly stupid. Right there, it did it again. Do you see that? Look at this is not selected, but by grabbing this, Krita assumes when I go to drag this that I want to drag the whole column. All I can say is I hope that the developers are hearing from people, because I don't really communicate my and look at Krita just blew up. Unbelievable. Well, guys, this really underscores why I've been gravitating to Blender and Tahoma more than Krita lately. And this is actually a case as well where it probably would make sense to consider ways to just move the whole shot over into Tahoma or something. But that's okay. We're getting by. We're going to make it work. Okay, so in this case, we're going to assume that probably Krita will be forgiving. And we're going to tighten up that animation and, of course, save our work. All right. Well, another thing I'd like to see improved in Krita too is the animation caching, because according to the preferences or whatever, it does it in the background, but in reality it doesn't. It really doesn't. There's certainly no reason from a software or a data management standpoint that every time you hit play, it shouldn't be the case that it always immediately starts playing with no lag at all. That just would require Krita to have all of the animated frames cached in memory. So in the time it took me to say that sentence, it could have saved everything in memory. Because in a worst case scenario, in a fairly complicated scene, it only takes about, at the worst, takes about 10 minutes to cache the animation. So anyway, we're going to not turn today into a Krita rant session. Boy, Ed's here. Hey, Ed. Gosh, now that everybody's here, I should recap the stuff that's new. Going back here, there's really just a couple things. Number one, I did make the command decision to put in an actual voice in the recap. So now I have sort of the voice of Roku from Avatar: The Last Airbender, or something kind of similar.
Previously on Salt and Light.
Melchizedek,
So there you go. That was fun to do. I did it first thing in the morning. Previously on Salt and Light. It's kind of hard to do once my voice is warmed up and I've been talking a lot. But anyway, the other thing I did yesterday was I got the score done, and so then last night I put together this little bit here.
Hey, this is Dave, aka Blended Planet, creator of Salt and Light. In the next episode, things start to heat up as we learn of Golik's nefarious plan, which doesn't bode well for anybody but Golik. If you missed episode 1, it's right here on YouTube channel Blended Planet. Be sure to subscribe to be alerted about new episodes. Now, it takes a lot to create a show all by myself, so if you'd like to see episodes more frequently, consider supporting me through GoFundMe, Patreon, or just a friendly PayPal tip. The links are below in the description, and above all, stay tuned for more Salt and Light.
And by
It
the
takes
way,
a lot
for
to
those who
create
are
a...
wondering about the music in the background, that's a piece of music I wrote about, gosh, it had to be at least 10 years ago. And so anyway, so now what we have is we've basically got the
Poor blind man.
Of course. How can I help?
All right. And so now we're just doing final fixes, and then we'll be able to release this webisode. And Lord willing, if things keep going the way I hope and expect, Ed, you just keep doing what you're doing, man. You got one flaming hell of a lot more subscribers than I do. So anyway, okay. So back to work here. So the fix here is to go ahead and move. And by the way, Ed, actually, since you're here, question, you do everything pretty much with frame-by-frame animation, so maybe you haven't bumped into, and I don't know how much you pay attention to my live streams, but There's a lot of bugginess. Do you find that in the Krita timeline? Like the thing we just saw a minute ago, the idea that I would go to move this keyframe and Krita assumes I want to grab the whole column, to me is just baffling. Have you found yourself like let me summarize my feelings about Krita 5. I love the transform masks in principle. I love the fact that they've definitely fixed a lot of the pixel buffer issues, like when you bake down layers. But the good things in Krita 5 are very much countered by what seemed to me to be some really questionable decisions and or bad programming in the timeline. And I'm just curious if you've had the same experience where you kind of have a love-hate relationship with Krita 5, where it's like you got these definite improvements that are balanced out by these like almost brain dead things. Yeah, buggy. Okay, I figured. Clone keyframes. Yeah, I haven't been using the clones much. When I've used them, they've worked. And I've used them for creating, lengthy duplicate cycles and whatnot. So, okay. Well, hopefully, I mean, for me, 5.0.2 was not an improvement. As far as I could tell, 5.0.2 introduced more problems than 5.0. And actually, right now, I'm using version 5 beta 1, right? So I'm way behind because beta 1 for me was the most stable of the bunch, actually, kind of weirdly. Okay, so now what we need to do is we've got to hide this little bit of Asher's head. One could argue maybe not, just because, maybe he's leaning forward, but actually that doesn't make sense because this canopy would be a couple feet above his head, so we have to cover his head. So the way to do that's pretty easy. Here in the Asher layer, we've got his head and his body, but what we need to do is we need to take the head with the transform mask and probably, to be safe, kind of to copy the clones onto another layer. That I have never tried. The only places I've ever used the clones, well, and two, it's a little non-intuitive too. Like, what you have to do is, just so people understand what's going on here, a clone keyframe means that I can create a copy of an animation keyframe downstream that is actually referring back to the original image instead of being an actual copy. And that means that if I change either the original or the copy, all of the instances of the clone update. That's a good thing, okay? So how you do it is a little non-intuitive because for me, when you make a copy, you hit Control and you drag. And by the way, that's another thing in Krita 5 that's extremely buggy. Everything that has to do with hitting Control or Alt or Shift to move keyframes around, it's just Krita guesses wrong about what you're trying to do more than it guesses right, it seems like sometimes. But anyway, what you do with a clone is you don't control drag, or you would think maybe it would be shift control drag or something like that to make a clone. And maybe there is a hotkey combination I'm not aware of, but what you actually do is you just say clone, and now and nothing happens. So that's inherently a little confusing, right? Well, what you're needed to do is now you've stored the clone kind of in memory, and Krita knows that you want to have a clone, and now you go to another frame and you just paste it. But instead of pasting a copy, it pastes a clone. So for me, is that a workflow that's either intuitive or like a good design? I would say it's actually pretty bad design, but there it is. So it's not the worst. I mean, it's kind of the way things always were with Blender, in the sense that you grab something and then you do something with it. So whatever. Okay, back to work. So what we need to do here is, since I'm feeling pretty confident with the animation of Asher's head, you can see his head just comes down a little bit. It's just adding a little bit of life to it. So therefore, I can bake in the transform mask. So I'm going to go ahead and flatten the layer, which causes the transform mask that made his head move to be baked into the head. Okay. And so now what we're doing is we're waiting for the bake down to happen. There it goes. So it took a little time, but not the end of the world. So now what we're going to do is watch this. This is how we fix this little problem right here. we're going to hit Control G and put him in a group, and then we're going to add a new layer, and we're going to put that new layer in erase mode. And now all we got to do is go in here, and with the B key, anything that we paint into this layer is going to erase anything that's under it. Okay, and that works well because now even though Asher's moving, it doesn't matter because the erase layer is just a static layer. Okay, and as you can see here, we need to erase that as well. Okay, so there we go. So that solved that. And with that, I would say merging the group, probably not the worst idea I've ever had. So there we go. And that happened pretty fast. Okay, so she has a cute waddle. Who has the cute waddle? I don't know who the cute waddle is. Is that the woman? Is the woman in the animation? Or are you referring to the Avatar, The Last Airbender cabbage cart guy? He's got kind of a cute waddle. So yeah, not sure what you're referring to there on the waddle thing. Sometimes select the entire keyframes of all layers and accidentally copy or move it. Yeah. Yeah, like I said, everything about interfacing or interacting with the timeline is considerably more error prone than Krita 4, for sure. I think that's a safe statement. So anyway, okay, so now we need to finish fixing his hand, obviously. And then we'll put Mel in the picture. So question, should we consider just a little bit of a tweak here on our color, I would say. Yeah, let him sit in the mix a little bit better, and I would say in the head. Now, obviously, we would have to do it in the whole head. I'm not going to bother with it because I guess what I'm thinking is he's under the shadows and maybe some sunlight's like peeking down, so I can live with that. But as far as his arm, that definitely required a bit of fixie poo. So let's go here. And okay, it remembered my size on my brush, so that's a good thing. And I just want to actually, you know what? I'm going to change this. I'm going to be bold. In the other shot, let me look and see what's happening. Right here. Well, I guess I should just put this on a full range or a full screen preview. Okay, his hand is resting on the table. Okay, fine. Okay, well that's a whole different story, isn't it? Okay, so probably the best way to do this would be to use the freehand path tool, and let's put it into raw mode. And now let me just look at this. So this is what actually is the structure of the next shot, is really something like that. Now, do we need to bother with outlines here? Probably not, but this will work. Okay, hit the B key, get yourself a dark line. We'll just go ahead and punch it up a little. But I mean, this is a pretty wide shot, so it's not like we're really going to notice if there's no outlines. But this is probably the right choice, because this definitely marries it to the next shot. Okay, so now Asher's other arm, what we need to do probably is put another layer behind. And I'm again going to hit the G key. And now I'm just going to kind of, whoa, Krita, what are you doing? So I'm basically building this up. Meaning I'm just drawing the shapes and allowing my imagination to begin to see the characters coming out of it, kind of thing. And that, I think, works pretty well for something like this. Now his arm has got a little bit more beef on it than I probably want. I don't know. That might be too much of a remover. Hello, you're supposed to be in erase mode. Krita's been missing my the E key as a hotkey kind of a lot. It's a little irritating, people. A little irritating. And I better double check his costuming too and make sure there's not some bizarre conflict. Okay, N key. So this is the size it'll actually be on TV, so to say, right? So I think we're probably in good stead. Okay, can these be married together? Yes, why not? When in doubt, well, I guess when in doubt, if you're Ed today, I'll keep them on separate layers, and if you're me, bake them together. And I suspect I'd probably regret it more often. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're actually going to add another layer and just kind of work quick here. I'm actually going to grab that color, and this is going to be Mel. Okay, so I gotta just, like I said, hello, G-key. I just want to find it and feel it. We'll worry about removing the canopy afterwards. Doesn't matter at this point. So I want to be in actually behind mode. And go to green. That's pretty close. Okay, got to kind of draw him in perspective here. Okay, now that we're in behind mode, boom. So we're just trying to, this is kind of like matte painting actually. You're just trying to sort of suggest what's there kind of thing. And of course he's behind Asher, so you should be able to, let's just use that for a little bit of a shadow color. And then we'll just put in some sort of dots for the eyes. And now we'll go to a little bit of a brush. Again, this is one of those things that's a little embarrassing when you actually zoom in and show it, because it looks so bad. But when this actually runs in the show, you're never gonna notice how rough it is. Okay, so erase mode. Now what we're gonna do is take this out. Just do it the hard way. And now this is just Mel looking sheepish, right? So, and don't forget, I have to say, this is pretty bad. The next shot, I'm now noticing that his armbands are missing, which is pretty stupid. I guess this will be bonus information for my subscribers or people who follow me closely. Is it could be, I haven't even looked at this, and the weird thing about it is that if you didn't think about it, you wouldn't think about it. Okay, what the heck am I talking about? Well, there may be, actually, in this second webisode that I'm getting ready to release, there may be 10 instances where Mel's armbands appear and disappear. I literally have no idea. And it's kind of funny because when I've gone back and watched it myself, I don't think about it. Like right there, the armbands are missing, right? So is that a problem or not? There, look at that. Armbands are missing. You know, there the armbands are and the wristbands, right? So this is kind of a big deal. It'll only take me a day to fix. You know, go in and any shot where the armbands are missing, just get them in there. There's probably like 3. You know, there's probably like 3 shots that will have to be fixed up. This doesn't matter because it's a different. Actually, I'm looking at episode 1 there. So some of those shots are from the kind of shoulders up, so you wouldn't see them anyway. So I would say yes, these 2 shots, that shot we need to put the wristbands in, and that shot. And I think that's it. Yep, so there's like 3 shots right in the middle here where that's something we got to fix. Well, but Sifter, the wristbands, this is all in one scene. This is all in one episode. So, I mean, my point in the way I approached the topic, though, was to say that there's to a degree, it's fun to leave mistakes like that in the show, just to see if people notice them. You know, it gives people something to talk about. So, is that a thing? Well, you guys can decide. All right, this is 076B, and I'm going to go ahead and re-render this, and then let's put it in the show and see if it's kind of sort of working. So let's jump over to Vegas. And in the second instance, which is this right here, we need to take this out, and it's going to dissolve. So we're going to go, and by the way, keeping in mind, this particular shot, I believe, was created at 24 frames per second. So just something to keep in mind. So we're going to go to 076B, scenes. Where are you, 076B? There you are. There you are. Okay, so now we're going to grab this. We're going to leave it at 24. Okay, where is 076B? We got to come back down here. Oh, wait. Yes, we got to come way down here. And there it is. Okay, so now we're going to stick this in here. And, okay, I know what happened. I'm going to have to check something here. Let's pop this up to here for the moment so I can remember my place. This shot here was time stretched a little bit. Media. This is actually at 24, but it's playing at 033. So I was wrong. Actually, I had set the darn thing to essentially play at 8 frames per second. So no big deal. We'll go in here, we will disable resampling, we will play it back at 0.333, and then we will, well, if disabling is resampled, then that should work. Okay, why did that switch to 0.250? 0.333. Okay, so now we've got a crossfade. Let's see what we have here. Okay, so now if we put that crossfade in there, it's basically 1 second.
Yuck it up, kid. Melchizedek, you have to pay a...
Okay.
Up, kid. Melchizedek, you have to pay attention.
Okay, cool. So we're going to have to put the armbands in there too, by the way. Oh, the many, 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 many mistakes. Not the end of the world. Okay, we can save that. That's good to go. Let's fix this right now. This is 136. Actually, no, it's not. This is 135.
Bear with me, friends, while we look and see.
Yes, 135. And I'm pretty sure this is a Krita. So let's go here, scenes, minus 135, there it is. We'll find out if this is a Krita or a Tahoma real quick. And there it is. I think this was done kind of a long time ago. Interesting. There's no animation or no nothing. So that tells me this is actually a Tahoma scene where I took the elements from Krita, pasted them into Tahoma, and then did the animation. Unless by some bizarre happenstance it actually turns out it was Blender, but when you got 800 scenes you're juggling, it's kind of hard to keep track. So, all right, load scene. Come on, Tahoma. Come on, you can do it. All right, 135.tnz. There it is. Okay, so now, yes, because Mel's got plastic tool on him. Okay, so cool, that's perfect. All right, so all we got to do is go to our basic brush. It's already set to -1, which is good. Let's sample this color, and then we want to go a little bit more saturated and a little bit darker. So let's go over here, and we're just going to make like that and put the armbands in. Not a big deal. Now, obviously, I'm going to use that bigger brush, by the way. R key, sample that color, B. Okay. So then we will have to put in the shadow, bake in the shadow here just a little bit. So no big deal. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Took a lousy 10 seconds. And then let's just add that. Now we've got those two colors that we can sample. Let's go back to this. Go here. We want to tilt towards red on our outline colors. That's not quite dark enough. Okay. So we'll get this in here. And it could be, we'll see, but it could be that now I was going to say you could actually cut and paste a little piece of it. I'll show you. Watch this. Watch me cheat. Watch me cheat. I'm going to cheat. Control C, Control V. I'm going to drag this over to here. And then I'm going to Control drag that like that. Sometimes it's fun to cheat. Then I'm going to hit the B key, snag the outline color, and just draw that line. Okay. Now, to be fair, actually, I got to cheat even a little bit more because, to be fair, he's supposed to have his wristbands as well, and the wristbands are the same color. So this is one of those cases where we can cheat up a storm. Control C, Control V, and I'm going to drag this over here, and actually what I'm going to do is erase, just chisel a piece out of that, and we'll see if it works. I can just kind of gauge this. I'm eyeballing it. This is like the stupidest possible way to do it, but it actually kind of works if you get it, if you guess right. Right? So there you go. So now all I have to do is go in and actually just do a little tiny bit of painting over it. All right, B key, R key, sample that color that in right there, sample that color, get in the outline, and sample that color, and get that little bit of shadow in there, back to the outline, and I believe probably our work here is done. Now if I hit Control Shift R, it's going to go ahead and re-render it, and it'll magically appear in the show. Okay, so is Vegas free? No, but I mean, I think there's a consumer. I think there's different tiers. It's owned by Magix now. I don't know if you've ever heard of Magix, but they've always been one of these companies that just buys up other people's software and then kind of rebrands it a little bit and stuff. So Vegas was Sony for many, many years, and the version I have is from back when it was a Sony product. This version is at least 8 or 10 years old. I've seen absolutely no reason to upgrade it. So now this is interesting.
You have to pay attention.
Okay, so the changes didn't propagate, and so now we have to figure out why. And the why probably has to do with output format. So if we render output settings, yeah, darn it. Okay. My stupidity. I assumed. I shouldn't have assumed. So this is scenes. 135 render, and it's supposed to be, well, is it supposed to be ping, or is it supposed to be, I'm just getting the render settings here set, guys, so that's all I'm doing. Okay, so these are actually, oh, these are TIFFs. Okay, that's unusual. This is like the only shot in the whole show that actually consists of TIFFs. So, do I need to put the period in there? I don't really remember. No, I don't. Darn it. It puts the period in for me. And so now we got double periods. So this could be a bit of a mess, but I think...
You have to pay it.
So basically everything's going wrong at this point. Okay, let's just call it what it is. We've got shot number 135, and this is my groove, my ability to just like go fast has been like kind of harmed here a bit. So scene 135, render 135.0001.tiff. Okay, so that's what we have. Okay, so what do we do? Well, let's go into our image browser, and we're going to go to folder number 135 and find out what in the flaming beep 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 is going on. Okay, so there's our TIFFs, and the question, of course, becomes, excuse me, why are the images not there? Okay, so, well, the only explanation I can give is that maybe Tahoma decided this doesn't really work for Tahoma. We're not gonna respect your so-called path. Okay, so this is weird. Now we've got, it appears to be in the correct folder. That's pretty weird. And I'm only seeing one instance in the image browser. So this is one of those, gee, hate to put you guys through it kind of things. But, you go ahead and create a show that's got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of scenes and see if you don't bump into some weirdness. Okay, so you can see what happened. Look at this. This is really, really, really a bit bizarre. The settings, so if I cancel this, according to Tahoma, see what it's done is, okay, so what's happened here is Tahoma broke its own rule. Okay, I kid you not. And it has to do with whether you have caps invoked or whether you use the numpad. In other words, if you manually put in a path here with the plus sign, and don't quote me on this, but it's something like this. If I had used the numpad to put in the plus, it would have known that scenes is a placeholder for the scenes folder that is a subfolder of the project. Okay, so in other words, if I turn off caps lock, I use the numpad, and then I think I did it wrong because I should have used a /, not a \. So what Tahoma actually did was create a new folder. So I'm pretty sure that, I think that did what I needed it to do. Now, isn't it interesting that when I put in the /, then it understood and it switched it back to a \, right? So in other words, if you put it wrong, Tahoma understands and does it right, but if you do it right, it understands it wrong. And what it did was it actually created a new subfolder in the show called plus scenes instead of just scenes. So Tahoma doesn't really know its own internal code in terms of whether this is supposed to be a placeholder or whether you actually intended for the letter plus to be part of the file name. And I can probably prove that to you by going over here, and let's just look at Salt and Light. Right there it is. Look at that. See, we've got an erroneous folder now called plus scenes, which is, just another example of dumber than a box of rocks, but there it is. And I've seen this happen before. And because it's got the plus in the file name, I can't freaking delete the folder. There's a couple hoops I can jump through where I can get it deleted. It's not that big of a deal, but there it is. Okay, so now I expect that when I go back to the show, probably we have the right. Yep, see, there it is. Now everything's back to normal. Whatever. Tahoma, okie dokie. So, the things we deal with, people. File will save all. So yeah, that's a Tahoma-ism. So in the last hour, we've seen some pretty stupid stuff with Krita, and we've seen some pretty stupid stuff with Tahoma. But, you know, is it not also true, friends, that the commercial software has a lot of stupidities to it as well? Absolutely. That's a tough racket, creating software. Okay, so let's go back to the show and just start looking at... So yeah, I'm sorry, Ed, I'm a little slow on the draw here, but look it up here if you want to. It's Magix. The company Magix owns Vegas now, and they've been marketing it for the last couple of years. So, but I mean, you're not gonna. Gosh, what do I want to say here? The only advantage, I would say, Ed, the only advantage you would get from Vegas compared to maybe some other program or software would probably be the nesting. Like in terms of like color correction and all that kind of stuff, it's pretty much parity with most of the other programs that are out there. I think most of what you can do in HitFilm Express is fine compared to what you can do in Vegas. Where Vegas is kind of nice is for project management in the sense that this is a nested veg file. So this is a complete standalone edit that I can open up in another instance of Vegas. And if I change this edit and then save it and close it, it'll update here. Now the caveat or the warning that goes with that is you only want to nest one level deep. Theoretically, you can nest multiple levels deep, but I've never seen it fail to backfire. So, and with the movies I've created, you know, written, directed, blah, 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 this is the way I've done it. I'll edit a scene as a standalone edit, and then they all come together in a final timeline that includes, roughly 40 to 50 of these clips that are actually standalone veg files. And that works out quite well because you can then go into them as you need to and make changes to the scenes and then just save them, and the entire show or the entire movie timeline just sort of updates automatically kind of thing. So anyway, that's that. So let's go through here. We got this time better.
Everyone be patient. There's plenty for all. There you are.
Torres.
Bless you, Asher. I wish we didn't need the help, but with the king's taxes so high...
Oh, it's nothing. Where is Melchizedek?
Hey, Luka. What's going on? Oh, hey, Melchizedek. Who's your friend? I don't know. He's just been sort of following me around. You're just a popular guy, Luka. Am I right? I guess so.
Alms for the blind.
Huh?
Alms for the blind. Is there no one to help? Alms for a poor blind
Right
man.
there, I'd like to. I want to punch up his lip sync. I want his mouth to be open wider for one thing. I want it to be a little more extreme, and
Alms for a poor blind man.
let's see here. So let's deal with that. That's 093. Let's go back over here. I'm guessing this is a Tahoma. So we'll go ahead and find out. Dash, or actually we don't want the dash. We want 093.tnz. So this is, this is meticulous work, but by gum, it's kind of fun, actually. It's kind of fun. All right, so what I want to do is I want to make these mouth shapes a little more extreme. Okay, and let me see here. Boy, I want to think about this for half a second. I see what I was doing. Okay. Honestly, what I probably should do here is make a change to the old man. If if I'm gonna, okay, I mean, obviously you could try to get into some sort of distortion-based animation. Nothing wrong with that, right? But the main thing is, if I'm gonna open up his mouth more, and again, I think I'm gonna come back to this brush, then the main thing is to hide this shadow under his lip needs to not be there, because when his mouth opens a little wider, it's going to bump into that, right? So we can just solve that by not having that incongruity. There's no reason that little shape needs to be there. Now, what I probably can do is select this like that, and then hit the S key, Control V, S key, Control V. The only difference between these drawings is what happens with his eyes. Okay, so now having done that, that's fine. I mean, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. So now let's hit the B key. I'm sorry, these are vectors. Whoa, these are vector shapes. I did not realize that. Okay, so I'm going to hit the C key instead. Wait, current tool can be used on a mesh deformed level. Oh, okay. So this is just one of those little Tahoma-isms, is that when, and it makes sense, so this isn't a criticism, but if you've got multiple levels piped through the plastic tool for deformation, which we do, you have to decouple them from the plastic tool if you want to edit them directly. Now, you could do it this way. You could actually go into the individual shapes and edit them here, but you can't edit them directly in the X sheet. And the reason for that, as I say, it makes sense. The plastic tool has taken everything about this drawing and moved stuff to other places. In other words, the mouth isn't really where it is in the drawing, right? So for that reason, you can't go in and paint into an image that's being deformed by the plastic tool. The solution is quite simple. You just decouple the layer from the plastic tool. As you can see, that caused it to move. So if you think about it, just for purposes of illustration, at this point, this mouth really is not here. It's really over here, right? So the whole thing kind of creates some confusion. Now, if you can do it, the easiest solution is just to do it in the standalone images. Okay, in this case, okay, this is kind of interesting. I'm going to go ahead and take the opportunity here to clean this up just a little bit. Okay, now if you're going to do it this way, this is a little bit, risky behavior. You want to come back here and double check that you're not fouling things up too much. Okay, so what I'm going to do in this case is I'm actually going to get rid of that, and then I'm going to just edit the Bezier curves here and open this up. And by the way, if you don't fancy yourself to be that great at drawing, this is a really good way to do animation. It's like in music doing step sequencing. It's very microscopic, but you have a lot of control over what you're doing. And I'm going to take this. I'm gonna do something a little radical because I want to see if it's propagating the way I think it is. Yeah, it is. Okay, cool. All right. So I can see that the plastic tool is having a bit of an impact on the. There we go. That looks pretty good. This looks pretty bad. Okay, I'm gonna try doing something here. I'm gonna go like this. Control C. I'm going to take this, and I think I'll just move the shape. Then I'm going to hit S, Control V. Okay, so that's kind of weird. S, Control V. Yeah, I can't do it. Okay, so that's too bad. So now I need to hit undo, and I wonder why it won't let me do it. Control C, Control V. Okay, that worked, but not quite the way I hoped, because I have no frame of reference to make sure it's in the right position. So therefore, what I need to do is do what I just did in a little different way. Number one, let's first get this out of the way, and the only reason I'm even keeping it around is just in case for some stupid reason I need to get it back. Now what I'm going to do is hit the S key, grab this, go to the next frame. Oops, sorry guys. and then hit Control V. Okay, now I don't need this anymore. I know I'm safe. And now what I can do is hit the C key, edit the nodes, and open that mouth up a bit. Okay? Hope that made sense. Okay, so now why do we have purple? Because we turned on the onion skins, and I have the onion skins set to blue. Okay. Now, we're looking pretty good here, actually. Let me go back to the show.
For a poor blind man.
Okay, yes, I see the problem. Okay, so the lip sync, this is basically anime style lip sync. So you got open mouth, really open mouth, really open mouth, almost closed mouth. Now this one, and some people out there may disagree with my assessment of, what constitutes anime lip sync. But what I've found is this is the pattern that I seem to see over and over in the shows that I've watched, right? So there it is, friends. All right, so now what I want to do is take this entire sequence and I want to move it north, grab the whole kit and caboodle, Control C, Control V, and now I think that maybe I'm looking to see, I want to make sure this shot isn't reused. Save all. I do not know. I don't think it is. Yeah, because we used the plastic tool to make him smile, and certainly that didn't happen. That I like. I am going to keep. Do I want to have that? Okay, so I got to say one of the things I intended to do here was kind of imply that this guy might be a shyster. We don't know that he is, and I didn't make it explicit that he is, but I wanted to kind of tease that maybe he's not really blind or something like that, right? So he goes, so he smiles, right? So over here, when he says alms for the blind, why this
Alms
grin,
for
right?
a poor blind man.
And then pay attention here.
Of course. How can I help?
Money would be good.
So I thought throwing that line in there would be kind of funny. So anyway, just gave away what's probably one of the better jokes in the show, but since there's so few people here, haven't given it away too much. All right, so let's look at this. I would say let's render it. Control Shift R. And let's just see if it's kind of working in the show.
For a poor blind man.
I love it.
Of course. How can I help?
Money would be good.
Okay, we'll keep watching here, looking for mistakes.
Wow.
Okay, okay, right there, looks to me like his lip sync is just a little bit,
Wow. Wow. Wow.
I can't, dyslexia moment here, friends. I can't tell if it's early or late. Oh.
Wow.
Hey!
Wow.
It seems to me that the mouth movement is late, so that would suggest that we want to move this back just a little bit.
Wow.
There we go.
Hey! I've got an idea. I will call him Monkey.
Okay. Luka's lip sync isn't horrible, but it's not amazing either there.
I will call him
Yeah,
Monkey.
it seems like it's a skosh late.
I will call him Monkey.
Okay, it ends at the right time, but it starts too late. Okay, so fine. That should be easy to fix. Let's look at, this would be, I believe, a Tahoma. Let's find out. Okay, so this, I like what we did here, so let's save that. And then let's try opening 099. I can't remember if this is Tahoma or Krita. The original pencil test and ink was done in Blender, but I just cannot remember where I went from there. So let's find out. 099.tnz. How are we doing on time here today? It's been an hour and a half. I may wrap it up here soon. Okay, yeah, that's definitely not it. So it's a Krita. So let's go to 099. We can close this. Save our work. Close it up. Minus 099. There it is. Wait. Oh, that's not correct. Sorry, guys. This is where it gets a little complicated because there was a whole sequence in the show that I wound up introducing a bunch of new shots. So actually 099 has within it A through, what is it? L or J or M or something. So 099A is what we're looking for here. There it is. Okay. So my complaint was that his lip sync starts too late. Okay. 099A. Okay, see right there's a Krita-ism like kind of Ed and I were talking about in the timeline. I click here, not only in the cell, but actually on the header. And when I hit play, Krita assumes no matter how many times I click over here, it assumes that what I must want to do is start playing from here, which is like, bafflingly stupid. Now, maybe that's been fixed in 5.0.3 or something. I don't know. The solution, as near as I've been able to tell, is get really liberal with using Shift Spacebar. Shift Spacebar in Krita 5 seems to be the secret to not going completely insane using the timeline. Because you can hit play, and then when you hit stop, it doesn't return to here. But if you hit Shift Stop or Shift Spacebar, then it does. See? It returns. So it took me a while to figure that out, frankly. It's kind of stupid, but Titus asks if I'm open to answering questions. Of course, I mean, yes. Ask your question, my friend. Ask your question. But ask it quickly. Quickly before you get in trouble and get banned from my channel. I'm just kidding. I've never banned anybody. So let's see here. So what we need to do is make the lip sync happen sooner. Okay, so I want to double check and reference this. He says, hey, I know.
I will call him Monkey.
Okay, so then he has the smile. I'm a little confused. Okay, I think what's going on is that 099A is used in two different places. So back in the show, this is actually 099A as well. So his eyes go up, and then he starts talking. Okay, so let's go back here, and we're looking for the eyes to go up. Boom. Okay, so this right here, we've got 2 cycles of that. So I'm going to go ahead and drag that to there, control drag, and let's see if that works. Okay, and by the way, I just dragged the shadow layer, not the not the lip sync layer. You're a stupid man. Okay, so Titus Penn, are you going to ask your question, dude? Ask your question. What's your question? So now what I'm looking for. Oh no. Oh, well, don't tell me. Don't tell me. Oh. Inside mouth. And this must be the ink. Okay, I see what's going on. Okay, we could probably use paste into active layer. What I'm trying to do here is I've got to get the mouth baked into those 2 frames right there. 1, 2. And this is, for me, the perennial problem is where my scene structure has. This is where Ed does better work than me, because he tends to keep things into their own layers, whereas I tend to bake things together pretty quickly, keep things pretty flat, and I almost you know, it never fails. I wind up regretting it. So right now the problem is that his skin, well, okay, I mean, I guess I might be wrong here. I was going to say this is what I need to reproduce. So what freaking layer is that? There's the inside of his mouth. Let's try this. Okay, that might actually do the trick. That actually might do the trick. Even though the lines aren't in there, that's going to go by. That's one frame. But it might be enough to get the, to get the, that suggestion of the lip sync happening just a tiny bit sooner. So, okay, recently divorced animate. And looking for a replacement software. Okay, so you bailed on Adobe. Working in Krita and you like it. Blend is very complicated so far. If you had to choose one app, which would you? Okay, so this has come up many, many times. And the answer is going to be Tahoma. Tahoma is going to be the sweet spot. And it has been mostly my mainstay over the course of the production, although the show consists of, I'd like to say it's about 40% Tahoma, 40% Krita, and 20% Blender. You know, or maybe closer to 10. You know what I'm saying? So my assessment, this is a question that comes up over and over and over again, is if you have to pick one, without a doubt, it would be OpenToonz or Tahoma. It has its quirks. If you're just wanting to create animation and you're basically a 2D animator and you just want to get work done, then for sure Tahoma. If you really are all about the paint process, because Krita's animation tools are pretty immature and they have a lot of quirks that and bugs and things like that I have a very strong love-hate relationship with Krita. If your job is to find, or if your purpose is to find a job in the animation industry, then by all means suffer through learning Blender. Blender is way more applicable to the real world. I mean, basically, almost nobody in the professional entertainment space is using Krita, frankly, or OpenToonz, or Tahoma 2D for you know,
Your friend? I don't know.
real work.
He's just been sort of following.
Okay, so I just want to check this lip sync.
Oh, hey, Melchizedek. Who's your friend? I don't know. He's just been sort of following me around. You're just a...
Am I in the wrong shot? I think I am. I'll tell you what, guys. I'm going to take a couple-minute break here. I'm going to just loop the video, and I'll be back in a couple. Okay, we're back. Had an opportunity to get the kettle on to boil. And now, this is shot 099A, which of course, the very idea that I wouldn't remember that is a little silly, but going back to the show, I was looking a moment ago at 089. That was kind of a good reason to take a break. Here we go. This is what we're looking for.
I will call him Monkey.
There we go. That did the trick. See, just adding that one mouth shape at the start.
I will call him Monkey.
Did the trick. Okay, so now we're keeping watching and looking for...
Okay.
Okay, well, this is something we need to fix. Look at 097. There's a incongruity in the edge of his face. Okay, let's fix it. Let's not be complete slop hogs here. So 097. Guessing it's probably a safe bet that that's a Tahoma scene. So let's go. Did I answer your question, Titus Penn? Tried to get open tunes for the simple fact that as symbols like Animate does. It does. I mean, I understand your workflow. I mean, I've used Flash before it was Animate, and the whole idea of symbols. What you don't have in OpenTunes or Tahoma, the difference between, I mean, Tahoma 2D is a fork of OpenTunes, okay? So they're practically the same program. But particularly if you're a Windows user, I don't know about the Mac, but the reason I embraced Tahoma 2D as opposed to being more on the OpenTunes path really just had to do with the fact that you can cut and paste images or entire groups, like this entire group of Luka with all his shadows and all that stuff. You can take the entire group and the rendered image, you can actually cut and paste it across the clipboard into Tahoma, which I find quite, it's been extremely useful in many, many cases. So that's the main reason I'm a Tahoma guy. But we'll discard the changes because we weren't actually doing anything with that shot. Okay. So, so when you say it has symbols, I will tell you this, and this really just has to do with your application. If you're running into a lot of situations where the reason you use symbols is you need them to loop, like repeating looping elements, then you may find OpenTunes a little frustrating because it really doesn't have a way to do that. So you can't take a looping sequence and just make it loop forever. You can copy and paste the frames or the animation keys repeatedly, obviously. And in practice, for most people, most of the time, that's completely adequate to solve the problem. We actually have that situation here with the bowls. That's just a looping. It's actually just 2 frames that are looping. But as you can see, I had to cut and paste them. If you absolutely have to have the ability to have a 2-frame sequence that automatically loops over and over and over and over, then you're really better off using Blender, because in Blender what you would do is you would map these 2 frames as a 2-frame image sequence onto a plane, and then there's a feature in Blender called cyclic, or cyclic, however you want to say it, which means that the video or image sequence that is mapped to a plane keeps repeating forever. Okay, so again, if you want maximum control, stability, especially if you're into 3D, of course, obviously, flexibility, a very vibrant community, then Blender is the better choice in exchange for a probably, in most cases, a worse learning curve. If you're really into just the simple 2D animation thing with a little bit of some fancy schmancy capabilities like the plastic tool here where you can deform your character, then without a doubt the sweet spot is Tahoma or OpenTunes. With Krita, Krita's good if you're a person who really loves kind of the rigor of really, really detailed frame-by-frame animation, you're probably going to do fine with Krita. And then Krita, the advantage you get with Krita has to do with, I would say, the kind of stuff that people associate with Photoshop, where you got blending modes and you got the ability to add quick and dirty layers, like the shadow, for example, is just a single frame that's then blurred with a filter, right? So getting things like that into it and being able to see in real time what you're building up is better in Krita, because in Tahoma you need to really look at it rendered to see what you've got. See? But if you want a modest learning curve, then with basically the broadest range of capabilities that work pretty well most of the time, then definitely OpenTunes is the better. Most of the people who come here, OpenTunes or Tahoma would be their best choice, in my opinion. So there you go. So what I was noticing was here. Let's go to Melchizedek. Okay, and what I noticed was some chatter in his cheek. Now, this is a tricky situation, friends. And the reason it's a tricky situation, now that I'm looking at it, that I got to be a little bit careful here, is that Mel was deformed with the plastic tool in the final version. Okay? So what I'm going to do here is I'm looking at the shot, and I want to say, when his eyes change orientation, you can see the chatter on his cheek. Okay, so now I'm looking at, yes, there it is. Okay, so there's the problem. So here's how we fix it. I'm going to hit the S key, and I'm going to actually grab the version that I know is fine. And now what I'm going to do is go down. Oh, no, undo. Sorry, guys. It's just classic case of I hit the wrong key, and if I hit the wrong key, I'm kind of screwed and have to start over. So Control C, and now I'm going to click, not hit the down arrow, hit the S key, so I'm definitely in selection mode, and then Control V. Same thing again. S key, Control V. Oh, that didn't work. Okay, why didn't it work? Well, because the erroneous problem is actually kind of baked in here. So what I need to do here is do some very careful erasing and lines and areas, but darn it, I didn't need to be in selective mode. Selective mode is a wonderful thing, but if you didn't really need to be in selective mode, it can kind of bite you. S key, Control V, that worked. So I'm just going down the line here. Okay, I think I'm okay now. Other than the fact that this really should be cleaned up a bit. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the V key. I'm covering lines and areas, and what I'm trying to do here is just go in here and paint over this and clean it up a little bit. So that's what we're doing. We're cleaning up. Okay, so now I can hit the S key and select this whole sequence or segment right here, a little piece of it, and then hit the S key again and paste over it. So now I should be able to hit Control-Shift-R, re-render the scene, and it should clean it up in the show. Okay, so that's basically what we're doing here today. So here we go. Let's see if it worked.
Okay.
Okay, I can still see a microscopic change there. So this is one of those, you know, how picky do you want to be? Well, frankly, let's be a little bit picky. I would say, let's do it this way. What I really want to do is just fix this whole thing because it really doesn't look very good. All right, here we've got 0030, so I'm going to raise this up and see if it affects all my outlines, and it does, so that's good. So that's the right, that is the correct palette entry. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and just gently smack over this. So, yeah, it's just a little bit of meticulous cleanup work here. And then I'm going to grab this, and I'm actually going to use my brush. Well, that didn't do me any good. Okay. geez, this is where it's actually better to use the Smart Raster brush tool rather than the standard brush that you usually use to make lines. Now, it could be argued also that what might not be a horrible idea for this particular level is to add anti-aliasing just to kind of cover myself. So normally I put it at 100, boom. And what that's going to do is just add that tiny bit of blur on the level. So let's zoom out and yeah, see, that looks pretty good there. So cool. We'll go with that. And so having done that, I'm going to save my work, by the way. Okay. So now I'm going to do the same thing I did before. I'm going to grab this whole little segment. S key. There we go. S key, Control V. Just fix those up. And that's my fault because, you know, way back when, I was a little sloppy. There's some garbage in this shot, but it doesn't matter. It's only ever on the screen for one frame. And it's kind of blurred anyway, so you're not really going to notice it. Let's see what we got. There we go. That got rid of the chatter.
Okay.
Bless you, my child.
Tianara.
Okay, there's the reuse of the old man. Is that the same shot we worked on before? I think it is. Well, that's 93B. Well, that's 099.
Bless you, my child.
Tianara.
Bless you, my child.
I
Tianara.
think we're okay.
Darling, what are you doing?
He has nothing.
Tianara, we do
Okay,
not
right there.
talk to
Lip sync issue. Okay, she goes.
Tianara. We do not talk to such people.
Okay, yeah, she's got to do a whole lot more moving on the mouth. And I'm pretty sure this is... Gosh, this actually might be a Tahoma shot, 115. Let's find out. We're going to save our work here. And give Tahoma half a second. And then, let's load up, what was it, 115? Yeah. Let's load up 115.tnz. Doesn't exist, so okay. Looks like we are going back over to Krita. So you may find this a bit baffling, but basically what's going on here is that when you've done as many shots under as many circumstances as I have, what the heck is that? You can't keep it all in your head, what you used for what shot, what software, you know, so it is what it is. Let me check my render settings, Control R. And according to this, it is saving it as 115 render 115, and it's a ping image sequence. I'm quite sure it is in the show as well. Okay, so it is set up to render properly. And so what we're looking for is here's Carliana and here's her mouth. Okay. So let's just zip in here. Let's go to the mouth layer. And I would say we are just going to go in here and strong arm this a bit. Yeah. Okay. So the mouth, because her body changes position, the mouth also we can't just use the other mouth shapes that already exist because they're basically in the wrong position and whatnot. So in this case, the quicker solution is just to redraw. So I'm just gonna try to create a little bit bigger shape here. Alright, so now she should be going. Okay, now what I'm going to do is take this one. Krita, don't be stupid on me. Okay, Krita did not be stupid. Krita was smart that time, so that's good. Okay, and then let's render it and just look at it first. Let's go ahead and look at what we've got, and then we'll decide if we need to add more lip sync at the end of it. I think we do, but let's find out. So,
Tianara, we do not talk to such people.
yeah, okay. So she says,
Tianara, we do not talk to such people.
okay, and so what we're doing here is, let me think about this for half a second. Yeah, I was pretty happy with the way because the mouth, I should say the voiceover that Maria did was edited.
Tianara, we do not talk to.
So we need.
Tianara, we do not.
Okay, so when she moves, when she bends forward, her mouth should not be moving. So, Tianara, right there. Now what? Yeah, okay. Alright, so what I'm going to do is take these two frames and copy them and then just move them into position. So her mouth isn't really exactly closed, but it's kind of in a neutral position, if you will. And by the way, that one, I feel like I need to move that a little higher. So is that right? I don't know if that's right. Again, I always make the claim that I have these dyslexia moments. Yeah, it seems like she never quits talking. So she's supposed to say, Tianara, I'm going to, well, I guess we'll leave it full screen.
Tianara, we do not. Tianara, we do not talk to such people.
Yeah, believe me, I know you guys are looking at this and going, whoa, come on, Dave, seriously?
Tianara, we do not. Tianara, we do not talk to such people.
Yeah, actually, if we just
Tianara, we do not.
If we just took the
Tianara, we do not talk.
So
Tianara, we do not.
Yeah, she doesn't actually start moving until after. I'm talking about her mouth. Her mouth doesn't start moving until after. So I have to look at this one frame at a time, unfortunately. So the problem is she leans into it. Yes, okay. Actually, I think I'm maybe working a little too hard here, because once she leans into it, the problem is this. So I think if I hit Shift and Alt and take this whole cluster and move it back here. Okay, so there you have your problem, is we're going to have to go through and move these back into position one at a time, because... Okay, and this is a great example of where your life would be made much easier. Doing everything I'm doing here in Tahoma would be way easier, because you could use the animate tool. You could do it in Krita with like transform masks and stuff, but you know, the only way to do it sensibly is you've really got to break the mouth layer into 2 different layers so that there's one that has the transform mask applied and one that doesn't, and it becomes a bit of a hairy mess. So she says, Tianara. Okay, and obviously there's still some problems there. And Krita, and by the way, here you go. As a newbie, this would drive you insane about Krita. It's just stupid stuff. You click back here, but it doesn't actually rewind it. See, it does what it just did right there. It starts playing from down here. It's just, ugh. Okay, I'm going to take all these drawings and take them out. So she said, Tianara. Okay. And now we're going to go through and we're going to fix this one frame at a time. And there is no answer. There is no solution to that. With Tahoma, you would have all the animation of her body that involves her body bending and changing shape would almost certainly be done with a plastic tool. And then in Tahoma, what you could do is you could actually map the mouth level through the plastic tool as well so that it automatically moves with the body. Okay, this is a prime example of something that's stupidly easy in Tahoma that's brutally difficult in Krita. Okay, so I'm glad I had the opportunity to show this example. So the way I'm having to go through and move the mouth frame by frame, you would not have to do that in Tahoma, because I can guarantee you if you were going to use Tahoma, this whole bend in her body, all that body language would have been done with the plastic tool, because it could be done very easily, and the whole thing would take you 2 minutes to animate, and doing it all frame by frame, you know, it just ain't that pretty. So I'm going to hit Control R and re-render it and see if I happen to get lucky and nailed it. You sound so pro. Oh yeah, Maria, absolutely. Yeah, she did a great job. Really, really simple animations. Think Newgrounds. I'm not familiar with Newgrounds, but yeah, if you want to keep it simple and you want to have fun and not be like wanting to claw out your own eyeballs because of things with the software, then go with Tahoma 2D. And by the way, if you go to, I don't think Darren's around today, but if you go to this channel, go to that guy's YouTube channel, and you're going to find all kinds of really good stuff to help you get going. And also his Discord, actually. His Discord. I have a Discord environment, and there's a lot of bleed over. Like I wouldn't say a lot, actually, because his is a lot more, there's a lot more activity in his Discord than mine. But, you know, there's quite a few people that are kind of part of both communities kind of thing. So, anyway, let's see what we have here.
Tianara, we do not talk to such people.
Okay, it starts too late.
Tianara, we do not.
Okay, it starts about 1 or 2 frames too late, and then it doesn't go long enough. So that's fine. Let's just go ahead and fix this. This non-interactive working back and forth to see what we've got is definitely a pain. One of the things that is probably arguably a bit better and easier in Tahoma is working with audio. Audio is going to be strongest in Blender, a little weaker in Tahoma 2D, and the worst of all in Krita. In Krita, all you can do is load up an audio file, and I don't even think you can like give it an offset so it starts later. You can't add multiple audio files and layer them up or anything like that. All you can do is just load a single audio file and set the volume. Okay. Okay, yeah. So this just ends too soon. So what I'm going to do is, I believe that's the same frame. So I'm going to just do that, and I'll bet you I got it right. I'm pretty sure I got it right. So we'll find out here in half a second. Hey, Darren. Yeah, I was just plugging your Discord and your channel there, Darren, for Titus Penn, who's maybe going to be dipping his toes in the Open Tunes waters here. Okay.
Tianara, we do not talk to such people.
Ah, it still didn't go long enough.
Tianara, we do not talk to such people.
And there's too many... okay, this is a little embarrassing. Okay, here's what we're going to do. Okay, so she says... we do not. Right there. This... Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to start breaking these up. Come on, Krita, don't be stupid. So what I'm doing right here, I'm breaking this up, and let me show you something, Titus Penn, if you're still around. This is a really good example of something that you're going to want to know. Okay, so bear with me here while I finish this up. Okay, so now this is fairly persnickety, and it's very error-prone because Krita tends to make a lot of mistakes in terms of discerning what you're trying to do in the timeline. In Tahoma, to do the same thing I just did, you would just grab the relevant frames, and you'd go reframe on 2s. And then it would take the cells that are one frame, just ones, and put them on 2s, just like that. So that's the difference. This takes 4 seconds. This takes 4 minutes. So what would you rather do? Do not talk to such people. There we go. Got it. Boom. I don't know why the heck I had her lip sync so fast, because I don't ever have lip sync that's that, on ones. It's kind of weird.
Tianara, we do not talk to such people.
Okay, not bad. I think
Tianara, we do not talk to such people.
I would say the whole cycle here needs to be moved back 1 frame. So I'm going to hit Shift Alt, grab that whole thing, and just ripple it back 1 frame. Now that might throw something off kilter because, yes, right there. Okay, so here we go. This is a great example again for Titus Penn. If you were working in Tahoma, this step right here that I'm having to do, you would not have to do. And I mean, there's some reasons having to do with your workflow why you wouldn't have to do it, because you'd be probably doing things in a certain way. But without a doubt, this is a major pain in the rump. And then there's all this additional massaging to just make sure you sort of translated the little elements all the same way. And here, because it's on 2s now, that means this has to be adjusted because her body moved. So I have to add an extra keyframe with the same mouth shape just to make it all work. Again, in Tahoma, you wouldn't have to do any of that. So this is why so oftentimes that's what I've done, is I've created elements and done painting and whatnot in Krita, and then I just cut and paste it into Tahoma for the final animation and adding the plastic tool and stuff like that. It's just and it's a good workflow. The 2 together, to know Krita is not going to hurt you a bit, and it doesn't take that long to get up to speed, on the basics. That's for sure. So there's nothing stopping you from learning all 3 programs
Tianara,
like I.
We do not talk to such people.
Okay,
But surely it can't hurt to...
Okay, got a little problem with her mouth. Looks like we got a little bit of green that's snuck in there. That's kind of stupid looking. So let's go to 116. File, load scene. I'm pretty sure it's 116, 116. .tnz. Hey Darren, were you here when I showed the Roku? The Roku. I did the Roku voice. Here you go, dude. I decided to put the voice in there, so I made the timing of it work. Here you go.
Previously on Salt and Light.
Melchizedek, it's time you learn
So
the...
there you go. All right. So why the heck is the interior of her mouth tinted a little bit green? Not quite seeing it there, but where is her mouth? I'm guessing this is her mouth. And this is the color, and yeah, it does kind of look like it's tinted a little bit green. Yeah. So normally, we really want this to be pretty desaturated, friends. And if it's going to tint one way or the other, you want it to tint towards the red, not the green. So, Control-Shift-R, boom. Okay. Yeah, none of that is a problem in Flash either. That's why I was looking for symbols. Right. Right. Yeah. Well, I will tell you, Titus, honestly, the whole symbols thing, in in principle, again, from the standpoint of which software you're using, probably Tahoma's the sweet spot. In Krita, you can do things like you can insert a file layer. Okay, so in other words, I could take an animated scene or something, and I can drag it into Krita, and it will either import it, which bakes it into the current Krita file, or you can use a file layer so that it will be referencing something that's on disk, and you can't edit it. But if you change the version that's on disk, then it will update when you reload the Krita file. So you got that ability that you're probably familiar with. In Tahoma, same thing. I mean, you could create an animated cycle of a character or something, and then drag that TNZ file into another Tahoma 2D scene, and it will automatically be loaded into that Tahoma scene as what's called a subscene, which is basically nested. It's an entire set of levels that are nested inside your top level scene and appears as just one column, but then you can go down into it and edit that. The downside with Tahoma in that regard is that let me think here. Darren, you might be able to weigh in on this one. If I load a scene into another Tahoma scene, and so then it comes in as a subscene, if I choose to do a load as opposed to a import, does it still retain its link to the version that's on disk? In other words, if I would change the one that I dragged in and resave it and then reopen the other one that it was dragged into, would the changes appear? I'm thinking not, because once you bring something in, once you bring one TNZ file into another, it makes a local copy of it. I think Darren probably understands my question, and yeah, so long as it's in as long as it's in a different project. Okay, now that's a weird twist. When you say a different project, you mean if you want it to load, but more or less retain its link to the original where it reloads. That's interesting. You're saying it would have to be in a different project as opposed to a different TNZ file? Specifically using the load option, it will reference the original. Okay. So in that sense, for a guy like Titus, if you're wanting to create assets that become symbols, as it were, where you're going to reuse them over and over, you would actually create a Tahoma or an OpenTunes project. Maybe you'd call it symbols, actually, where you create these standalone symbols that you're going to use elsewhere. And then what you do is you create these components, and then you create a completely new project that's going to be the final thing you're going to animate and distribute or whatever, right? And then what you would do is you would take the TNZ files that have your symbols, you would drag them into a TNZ file, or I should say you should drag them into a scene like this, what you see in front of you right now. And by virtue, Darren is saying, by virtue of the fact that they're coming from a different project, if you load them in as opposed to importing them, if you import it, it's going to make a local copy of it, okay? If you load it, then you can use those symbols over and over, and if you go back and you change the original symbols and then reload the scene that you're working on that you had dragged them into, the changes will reappear, okay? So Darren, pay attention to what Darren's posting there, because that'll help you kind of see how you can use a sort of a symbol type of approach in OpenTunes or Tahoma. Okay, cool, good. So there you go. So yeah, if that's the way you want to work, then I would say OpenTunes or Tahoma is going to be a really good choice for you. And I've said it both ways. At different times I've said, if you put a gun to my head, and I've got 2 24-minute episodes here of this show, right? I mean, this is a lot of animation, blah, 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 right? And I have said at different times, if you put a gun to my head and I had to start all over and I could only pick one software, sometimes I say it would be Tahoma, sometimes I say it would be Blender. If you ask me today, I'd say Tahoma, especially for what I'm doing that's kind of an anime-informed type of thing. What you see here, look at the way her body bends, and then she sort of shrugs her shoulders a little bit. That's all being done with the plastic tool, okay? Oftentimes, in fact, I actually think that the only reason this image changes at all is because of the eye blink. So if you factor out the eye, if you forget the eye blink right there, you could say that everything that's animated on her is actually being done by the plastic tool. It's all being done with bones. So that type of thing to set up and do very, very quickly, to add cool secondary animation or whatever you want to call it, is enormously easier in Tahoma 2D. It's basically impossible in Krita. You can kind of get there with the Liquify tool. And it's more powerful and flexible in Blender, but there's a lot of housekeeping and setup required in order to make it all work. So if you want to be able to just kind of lay down a bone skeleton and quickly animate a character and kind of have fun with it, you probably want to be considering Tahoma to be your best bet. So that's my opinion. Gonna stick to it, and let's get back to our show. What time is it? 2:22. Well, we're getting close to the... we're really getting close to being able to release this, actually. So where is... She gets chewed out by her mom. There she is. Okay, so this is where we left off.
But surely it can't hurt to...
Okay, by the way, that's the one spot in the soundtrack that I think is kind of lacking a bit. So let's open up Reaper and take a quick look at that, because I knew that was going to be a bit of a problem. And then we're going to have to re-render the music stem. So recent projects, Tianara. Okay, so what we've got is, we'll solo the music track. Where are we? Okay, here we go. And by the way, we've got some crap going on here with the trombones and whatnot, so right there. Nope, it's not the, it's actually the trumpets. Yes, look at that. Oh my gosh. So we want to have a little more tempered volume rise. Okay, and now I have mixed feelings about this. Is that the Frenchies? No, that's not the Frenchies. What the heck's going on here? Timpani. We got that. Probably the temp is a little obnoxious. Yeah, it's maximum volume. I'm going to temper that a little bit. But why the heck am I just hearing the, I must be hearing the amalgamated, let's just kill these one by one. Oh no, I'm still hearing a 2-note chord there. So I'm a little freaked out. Why am I hearing the 2-note chord when I mute these two? Oh, that explains a lot. Pizzicato. What the heck did I do? Is this a strings? I think it might be. Wow. Nope. I can't find it. It's the cellos. Oh my gosh. They sound like, wow. Okay. So, all right. I did not realize that. That sounds for all the world like brass. Well, it just goes to show, because this is a pretty good cello sound actually. So it goes to show how when you you know, orchestral instruments, if you don't hear the attack of the instrument, oftentimes their timbres are not as different as you think. It's actually the lips interacting with the mouthpiece and or the bow interacting with the string that make, you know, some instruments sound the way they do. So what we need to do here is, first of all, I need to see if my controller is working. And I was afraid of that. Okay, so let's do this. There's another thing, by the way, that I noticed. My master, when I recorded all my stems, yeah, my master volume was almost 2 dB down. So theoretically, this show is actually cranking out slightly too quiet. But we'll see. We'll see. So this is a bit of a silly problem that I have here. But what I'm going to do is save my work and kill Reaper so that I can unplug and replug in my MIDI controller. Okay, now it'll work. And so we can go ahead and fix this problem. So file, recent projects, there it is. Okay, and by the way, it's also almost criminal that I'm using the cellos in such a high register anyway, because really usually you're see what I mean? Not a bad sounding cello. It's not like the greatest ever, but not bad. So what I'm going to try to do here is in the cello track, I'm going to just actually record a swell. Okay, and by the way, I'm going to check in my controller here. Okay, so my bass volume is 82. Now you can see as I'm moving my controller what's happening. I'm not doing that with my mouse. Okay? So what I'm going to do, actually if I really want to be safe about it, I shouldn't use a controller. What I should do is actually just add an automation channel. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and add a, right here on the CC volume. Okay, so now what I can do is put essentially a keyframe, if you want to think of it as like an animation keyframe. All right, so now I can drag this down like that, and now we're going to get this swell in the volume. That's way better. Now you could argue that maybe I could go ahead and sneak it up even a little more, but nah, that's too much. That's way too much. So I'm just going to leave that. I think that worked out pretty well. Okay, and now let me look at the chord. So I'm basically hearing an E flat in there, but I think I want to put it in from a different instrument. So maybe the trumpets. Yeah, I mean, boy, I'm gonna just stick it in there, and then let's now fix it up. Do the same thing on the trumpets. If we add an automation lane for volume, let me see. I want to make
Been
sure.
sort of following me.
I want to make sure I'm not introducing problems.
Am I right? I guess so.
Arms for the blind.
Am I right?
That's pretty quiet. That's pretty quiet. Okay, let's just do it. We're just going to essentially do the same kind of thing here. So that... My bad. I put that in the wrong place. It's this note here that we're interested in. So these levels need to remain pretty consistent, and then we have to basically dip down right here. Alt S to turn off snapping. I really don't want the snapping. There we go. Okay, so now I'm actually going to stretch this out just a little bit so they end at the same time. Not bad, not bad. That's okay. It's not like the most sophisticated composing you've ever heard, but it's pretty functional, I would say. So I think we're okay here. I'm going to go ahead and lower this level back down to what the sort of median level for the track was. Honestly, I don't like to do too much of this. You know, the whole the whole interface starts to get pretty cluttered when you start adding automation and whatnot. So anyway, let's double click that. And now the process here is a little bit kind of interesting. What I need to do is re-render. I guess I won't. Well, see, I should re-render everything because I really needed to set the master volume up to 0 dB. So with that in mind, I'm going to solo this layer, and what we're going to do is we're going to render. We're not going to turn on the stems feature. We're going to render this. Double click that, so we're definitely selecting the whole episode, and this is the music track. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cue that. Boom. Stop. Now I'm going to grab the sound effects. I'm going to queue up sound effects. Yes. I'm going to render over that. Put that in the queue. Now voices, same thing. Render this. We're going to render the voices. Cue the render. Yes. Then unsolo it, so that we're actually rendering the whole thing as a mix, which we probably will not use for anything, but there it is. Okay, that's queued up. Boom. Okay, so now what we can do is we go into the render queue. Where are you, render queue? There you are. And it'll go ahead and render all of those different variations of the soundtrack for me. So as you can see, what's going on right here is the music for the show recap and introduction was baked into the video file that was brought in that I could score against. So that's why the music is showing as being silent in the first section, is because this is all the music down here, but up here, the soundtrack actually has that stuff baked into it. And then once the show actually starts, it's silent. Hope that makes sense. So, okay, how are the mouths registered to the main body again when you use the plastic tool? Great question, Full Chain. Sorry to be so slow on the draw here. Let me show you. There's a bit of a technique to it. What you do is, let's say presumably here, you got the situation where this is her mouth, as you can see, which it is, and then this is her body. So step one is you set up the plastic tool by hitting the X key, and you create the mesh, and you add the skeleton. You already know how to do that, right? Okay, then what you do is you hit F3 to go into the schematic, and in the stage schematic, not the effect schematic, okay? Sorry, that's the wrong thing. I want to hit this. So you're not doing the effect schematic where you add blurs and color correction and all that stuff. You're doing the stage schematic, which is all about scene structure. Okay? So this is the plastic tool level you just created. And then you've got her mapped to that with the skeleton. All you do is you take your mouth level, which was going like this, going straight into your output, so this is what gets rendered, and you just map the mouth level into the plastic tool. Now when her body moves around, the mouth is automatically dragged along with it, exactly the way you would expect. Okay, so there you go. That's what you do. Okay, so now the next step is to see if Reaper's done rendering. Hopefully we haven't got hopefully we haven't introduced audio peaks by not having it down 2 dB, but my expectation would be that check. Why is that? Why do we have those? Those are some pretty radical peaks. Those are some pretty radical peaks. I'm not loving that. Something seems a bit strange, but Voices 2, voices wave. I gotta look in my folders. Reaper seems to be doing something strange here. Anime, Salt and Light, Reaper. No. Actually, I guess that is right. No, that's not right. This is like, oh man, this is where I'm committing the cardinal sin, which is not knowing where your official stems, that's where it is. So it's render official stems. Okay, so there it is. So it still is doing the, it's still adding the stems. What the heck, Reaper? Oh yeah, the schematic, thanks. Okay, cool, got it. So there's something, there's something set up wrong right now in Reaper. So it's actually rendering way more waves than it is supposed to. And I thought when I unchecked the render stems option, it wouldn't do that. So the honest truth is, people, at the moment, without interrupting the render, which would be stupid, I have no idea why Reaper is creating all these extra erroneous tracks. What we're supposed to have is full soundtrack, music, sound effects, and voices. What we have instead is soundtrack plus soundtrack dash videos, music, you know, and then music 2 dash voices. Yeah, there's some really bizarre things going on there. But all it means is that the render took twice as long as it needed to. So, because Dave, like, that'd be so unusual, right, for me to make a mistake. Half the time I spend here is spent fixing things that I've done wrong earlier. So, that's the way it is. It's the way it goes, people. When you're trying to juggle so much stuff, you know, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? While this finishes rendering, I'm going to go grab my my water. Hang on. Okay, renders are done. Soundtrack renders. So what we're gonna do is, first thing I'm gonna do actually is look at my settings here. And so this is really annoying because I unchecked this. You guys saw me do it. I specifically unchecked it. So why it got rechecked, I have no idea. And what I'm going to do is queue up a render. Now let me check something here. Okay, so now it's not checked. So now what I'm going to do is go into the render queue and delete everything. And then save my project. Okay, cool. So now let's go back to the show. And what we should have, so now Vegas has to rebuild the peaks for all these scenes. Everything looks pretty good, and I would say in terms of level, it looks much more comparable to the other episodes. So
Indeed, it was a
Previously on Salt and Light.
Melchizedek. It's time you learn the truth. Our beautiful land of Newsy. One, be patient.
oh yeah,
There's
okay, cool. So we've gotten rid of the little incongruity. So let me find. Carliana.
But surely it can't hurt to...
Remember who you are, Tianara.
That's rough. Am I right?
We have so much.
I have heard enough. Balder,
Yes, ma'am.
confine Tianara to the wagons.
Yes, ma'am.
She's a little harsh.
I gotta say, I'm happy with the way this soundtrack turned out. This stuff feels pretty good.
Thank you, little friend.
Wow. That'll work.
I really need a, gosh, I don't think, I mean, musically, where's Carl Stalling when you need him? I really need to actually get a crashing, smashing, breaking sound right there, like broken glass kind of thing. So I am going to put a marker in there because I don't think I'm going to get to that here. I need to go find a sound effect in the archives.
Melchizedek, focus!
Sorry, Asher. I'm on it.
Okay, and I want to redo that voice. Don't.
Sorry,
It's a
Asher.
little too shaggy from
Sure.
Scooby-Doo.
Asher. I'm on it.
Okay, so back here, I'm going to label this. I'm just going to go ahead and, you guys can't see this, sorry about that. I put a marker in here to label this crash sound effect. And then this is redo the voice.
Sorry, Asher. I'm on it. Oh, sure. Yuck it up, kid.
And actually, this as well. I don't know that I grabbed. It feels a little too Kurt Russell in its attitude. So, let me redo that.
Melchizedek, you have to pay attention.
I know, Asher. I'm sorry. It's just... There was this girl.
A little bit of a sync issue there.
There was this girl.
Lip sync goes too long. Okay.
Huh?
Aliana, she's a hard woman.
Wait, what? You know her?
Of course. She owns land in the north.
Where the rain still falls?
That's right. She's selling her crops. A steep price, I expect. Say, how's that laundry coming along?
I might have kind of forgot the laundry.
And your studies, too.
So-
Ready for your test?
Once I
Better
release
get
it,
cracking.
I expect you
As
guys
for
to
me,
share,
I
share,
think
share,
it's
share.
time to pay the king a little
I need your
visit.
help. Getting the word out here.
Hey, this is Dave, aka Blended
So
Planet,
this'll be
creator of
baked into
Salt
the
and
show,
Light.
right?
In the next episode, things start to heat up as we learn of Golik's nefarious plan, which doesn't bode well for anybody but Golik. If you missed episode 1, it's right here on YouTube channel Blended Planet. Be sure to subscribe to be alerted about new episodes. Now, it takes a lot to create a show all by myself, so if you'd like to see episodes more frequently, consider supporting me through GoFundMe, Patreon, or just a friendly PayPal tip. The links are below in the description, and above all, stay tuned for more Salt and Light.
So that's it. That's the episode. So I've got basically about 1, 2, 3, 4 things I need to change, and this episode took about 6 weeks. Okay, so from when I released the first one to when we'll actually get this one out. So I would say, just scanning through episode 3, I think episode 3 is going to be quicker. I think I'll be able to get it out quicker. I don't think it's going to take 6 weeks. There's some things like this shot, for example, that I've already completely redone a couple weeks ago. Blah, blah, blah. So I think that's it for today. And by the way, I've been watching Full Chain. I've been watching your live stream attempts. Was it yesterday or the day before you were live streaming? This is fun to watch you doing your thing. And I see you're kind of rocking in Tahoma or Open Tunes. So anyway, and by the way, the performance on the live stream did really look pretty good most of the time. So obviously you can post, you know, you can do it without live streaming, but you've done plenty of that. So anyway, you know, if it's a little choppy from time to time, no big deal. So, all right, guys, I am going to sign off. And as you guys know, there definitely will be more later.